Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that has no name. We're in a brand new location again because we do that every single time. This might actually be the permanent location, though, so we're excited to be here.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So keep an eye out for. It'll change though, because obviously we can't just leave that alone. So, but it will. It will. So
We just green screen a new background in each
every
time.
Yeah, exactly. So it just looks like we're changing cities every single time. But we're here today talking about the Ascension hack that happened last week, Wednesday. Just going to kind of go through a couple things. People in the background are making lots of noise, so hopefully that's not coming through. And we'll just kind of talk about what happened, how it happened, and where things are at right now.
Yep. I got to find my sheet here really quick. Oh, no, I lost the link that I had. Hold on.
So I guess we can start off by like what actually happened. I guess we don't know everything yet at this
They have not revealed everything. They reviewed little as like kind of like, I don't want to say damage control, but like in their PR releases, they have released some stuff. So they basically said like on May 8th, so about 8 days ago, 8 days ago, they noticed unusual activity on their network and they were taking precautions to like shut it down, keep stuff safe and everything like that. But at that point, they like didn't reveal what it was. Later on, a couple of days later, I'd have to go back and find the actual date. They did confirm that it was a ransomware like attack of some sort. They still didn't really specify what it was, but that they're pulling in like industry experts like Mandiant and Palo Alto and Cypher, stuff like that to like help them out.
The whole city of Palo Alto, California.
When you're big enough, you can. I guess when you're big enough, you
Anyone
can.
that lives in Palo Alto, you probably know about cybersecurity. Just come over and hang out.
Please come help us.
And figure this out. Yeah.
But their information, so a lot of the information, as I've like kind of been reading and keeping up with it, and I actually know people who work there, but like a lot of it, they haven't really given super specifics yet. It's more just been about, a lot of it's been answering the questions of like, can I still go to the hospital? Can I still get my prescriptions filled? Can I still whatever? And the answer is usually yes. I think they're just in like a degraded state of being able to work on stuff, but they haven't like super gone into details about what has happened
I
yet.
think a lot of those answers are sort of more of a maybe though, aren't they? Because a lot of them are just like, can I get my medications? I mean, sort of, but they sometimes don't have your actual medical records. And so it's like, yeah. I mean, I've heard of people that have been expecting to go to appointments and things like that. And they're just like, yeah, I have my labs done.
Yep.
And that's why I'm coming back to review my labs. Do you have my labs? Well, not actually. So what's the point of going to these doctor's appointments when they don't have any of the information? You're just going to hang out. They're just going to bill your insurance on paper somehow and then reschedule another one. So
it sounds like they're doing most stuff on paper or just hobbling along. Is it because I don't like they're not like their whole like internet and everything is now. It's just like all their internal like systems or whatever. So whatever's built off that system, which is probably 95% of what they do.
Yeah, it's their
they can't get to
the my charting system, all that stuff. So you can't check your appointments, you can't check your records, you can't check any of that sort of stuff.
Right.
And I've kind of read some of the articles in different news posts, and it does sound like people can't get their labs done and they can't get rescheduled appointments. Is kind of difficult because maybe they could do it, but it's maybe on paper or maybe something else. And it did sound like phone systems were down too. There was affected by phone systems and some.
I believe it.
I read, which it's shocking. Like, what on earth would happen to take down a phone system? And
if they have an on-site PBX and well, yeah, I guess that thing got ran somewhere. I don't know.
Wouldn't it be in Linux or something else? It just seems.
That's not impossible. I'm not saying it's not strange, but anything's possible.
Yeah,
but it is weird. That's not what I would expect to happen.
It does seem very weird. Yeah, that it affected as many things. Yeah, so I think we covered a couple of things. We covered who's involved. Obviously, the entire city of Palo Alto and some other third-party vendors that are
right. Yeah, exactly.
To make sure things are going well. I think the thing that was shocking to me, I didn't know how big Ascension actually
they're huge.
They are huge. So I did a quick search, and there's 24 hospital campuses with another 100 facilities, which I imagine is clinics, urgent cares,
smaller ones.
Different things like
they're in 15 states. Is what I'm seeing right here.
Yeah, so it's
that's huge.
Actually, a pretty big situation. So, a pretty big breach to go and get that many locations and patients and things like that. It'll be interesting to see how much data they thought was actually breached from that and how they will even determine that.
Right. But like I said, unfortunately, they as of yet have not entirely shared. Obviously, it's still going on. Like they're still down as of right now, as far as we know. And they're not probably they're probably not going to reveal a ton. In the end, they're probably not going to reveal a ton. They have said that they have shared information on what's going on, like within their like what would you call it? Like their network of other hospitals and anything like that. So like, hey, like other A, B, C, XYZ hospitals, like watch out for this thing that happened to us. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to reveal it to the public.
Right.
But they have confirmed it was a ransomware attack. We can assume, and this is all just assumption, it probably was like unfortunately a human error thing because that's almost always how it happens.
Yeah. So I think the thing that's the most shocking for me is what on earth takes 8 days? You know, you're thinking about stuff and you're just like, and I don't know that we have the answer to this question,
No.
but I think it'd be fun to sort of like dig into what on earth and why are they now 8 days later
Still broken.
still broken?
Mhm.
Why have they not restored some things at this point? Or even if it's just internal, you know, like, hey, we restored some of our systems and things, but maybe we didn't put them on the internet yet for fear that maybe we can't find the ransomware yet or something else.
Right.
Um,
Because I'm just reading through their last press release
sure.
was yesterday at 4:23 Central, so our time. So 12 hours ago, whatever, or not. It's not even close. Doesn't matter. But like, it still doesn't even sound like anything's on yet.
Right.
It still just sounds like it's completely like
Right.
just broken.
Right.
But like, yeah, exactly. Like again, I don't want to speculate or assume. Like it's probably like a really bad scenario. I don't want to just like assume like whatever. But like, yeah, how do you not have at least a backup
Yeah,
or can do something to get it
for me
back
is
on?
what's the takeaway from all this, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, as we work on, and some clients need a higher level of that sort of disaster recovery planning and thought process than others.
Yep.
I would imagine a hospital with 24 locations and 100.
Probably has a lot.
I would expect that there would be like, there would be.
You would
legitimate,
think.
like, hey, we just got ransomware. Like, where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
I would have expected that to have been something you did and planned for and
In practice.
Yeah. And running that throughout the time. So 8 days, and who knows? It might be another week. Who knows? We don't know.
They have no timeline.
So it just seems like a strange thing that you built a DR plan and you were like, 14 days. That seems like a fine enough time to come back from a cybersecurity incident. That seems horrible, right? Like
Right.
we would never let that
No.
be okay, right? And so why can't you go back to backups? Why did the backups not go back far enough? I think they said in one of the articles that the breach they thought happened in March, maybe. Does that sound familiar?
I didn't actually see that, but I think you've gotten to read a bit more than I have. But that's usually how it goes though. Like usually like when you get breached, it doesn't just happen right away. It usually sits on your network for a little while, and then it, after X whatever parameters it wants to do, then it'll initiate. Like if the hacker wants to check for something, see how it reacts, whatever. I totally believe it.
Yeah, they're gonna mine social security numbers, addresses.
Yeah, I'll just sit there silently.
They're gonna try to get as much data as they can first, and then once they feel like they've leveraged all that, then they're gonna be like, "Bink,
Yep.
let's see if we can get some money out of this deal too."
Right.
And yeah, maybe it's the fact that it wasn't a right away thing. So, if you restore back to March, what happens with your data between March
how much
and
do you
now?
lose? Yeah, sure.
But it's one of those things I think you would have planned that. Maybe it's like, hey, can we restore back to March, and then bring back incrementals as we find that they're clean? Like if you found that, hey, this is the time it came into the network.
Can't I'm not saying all of them, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but can't a handful of backup systems like kind of help detect ransomware, and then like if it catches that in a backup, it'll like notify you, but also be like stop backing up the like.
Right.
Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, usually they'll notice like file name changed.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden this file comes off as podcast notes, May, whatever, and all of a sudden it's just a long string of encrypted digits.
Right.
That all of a sudden it would stop and notify, or at least not back up the changed file, so you'd have a copy of whatever. And I'm sure something really horrible. Like these guys have to be like absolute top class IT.
100%. Yeah.
Dig on those people.
No, not at all. We're not.
Just must be shockingly bad that whatever their DR plan was, which I'm sure was like
had to be
hours,
extensive.
days,
Yeah.
It was probably short. That something so significant happened that we're now 8 days into this and nothing's operational. That just seems interesting.
It is crazy. I'm just trying to look through like their site here, like because they have like a whole like if you go to the Ascension's website, like right on the top, they have a whole like banner about like their whole press releases and everything like that. And a lot of the articles that Chris has been referencing have just been like other like independent news articles and stuff like that about it.
Right.
And I don't blame them for taking this route, but they definitely are taking the route right now of saying a lot of things to say nothing, which like I don't blame them for doing that because that's probably what of course, I want to know all the details, but like if I was them, that probably is a little bit of the route you might want to take. Like, don't say things until you like fully know it. So I'm not knocking them for that either. It's just hard from a third person because like I want to know what happened, but like we're not them.
Cybersecurity experts from Palo Alto. Oh, it's Palo Alto Networks. It's not the whole city.
I forget that Palo Alto is also a city. I always just assume of like the switching company, but
Got it. Sorry, when you said Palo Alto, I was like, oh wow, we're just calling the city now. Just like
well,
governor be like, I would need you to send your citizens, please, to our headquarters in Ohio.
Whoops. I also don't know what Unit 42 is in Palo Alto, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Is that some like cybersecurity like thing within Palo Alto? Whatever it is, it sounds super cool.
It does. Yeah, it's like interesting. This sort of underground secret place where they hang out and work on cybersecurity stuff. So anyway, I guess like as a takeaway for people out there, like what is the it's yet again another real world example that
100%.
that I mean, obviously no one is safe from these
No.
kind of things, but
Right.
but again, as a hospital, I'm sure they probably, let's just go out on a limb and say they did everything right.
Which is a good chance that they
There's a
did.
good chance that they probably did all those things in the red
Right.
team and they did all their testing and planning and whatever.
Yeah, but like, what's the takeaway from
what's the
seeing this
takeaway?
thing happening?
Yeah, even if they get up in a week,
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks of downtime for a hospital is absolutely catastrophic. They're gonna have to hire another team of people just to take all the paper and put it in the system.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people that are going to go to these appointments and things like that still that need to be at a hospital.
Right. And like, yeah, what's the fall from this? Like, not only that, but like also like, okay, humans are very error prone. How much of that paper stuff in this chaos of all this is going to be wrong or missing or whatever? And then your records are just broken.
My handwriting is okay, but like it's
Mine's
not,
horrible.
It's not great. Yeah,
Yeah.
So like I've seen some of those doctors' signatures. You can't tell one from the other. Like, what if they're just taking notes in the thing and zzz,
Right.
you got to get AI to try to read these
Yeah.
doctors' notes and things like that. And
So I think a lot of the takeaway is a couple of things. One, like Chris already said, and this isn't to be snarky, this is just literally true. No one is safe.
no one is safe.
You don't have to be a mega hospital to be like at risk of this. Like, sure, the one maybe that's targeting a massive hospital is maybe going to be different than the one attacking a small business, but the consequences can all be the same and could all be the same damage. And this could be your company,
Right.
which is really scary. You could be down for like a week, and that could
is
be
scary.
like the end of some things. Like,
And I think that's why it is really important to focus on within what's budgetarily practical
Right.
and reasonable is
Mhm.
like, can we go as far as we possibly can so that we can
Right.
shorten that period of time? Like,
Yep.
do we have to have cold storage? Do we have to, you're just having things, you're like, if I was running a hospital's network, you would kind of think like I would have my entire infrastructure like offline, just somewhere ready to go. Like just maybe there's monthly backups that get restored to it or something.
just how you can just swap to and be like, we're running off of this right now.
And it's
Yeah.
maybe one of those things that the IT people suggest that, and they're like, how much is it going to cost? Well, $1 million. And oof, I don't want to spend.
You have other things that we can spend $1 million
$1
on.
million now, though, right? Just like ooh,
More than that.
yeah. Let's do that cold side thing you guys were talking about, where you can turn it on in 5 hours.
That'd be
instead
cool.
of 2 weeks. Let's do that. That was $1 million. We're gonna spend way more than $1 million on fees, fines, and getting a team of people to take paper and get into the system.
And something we've talked about too, like in some of like our meetings with clients and stuff like that, is like doing these disaster plans. Even if you like nothing's going on, nothing has happened, it still is good to like go through those plans because it helps you think of stuff like this. Like,
Yeah, totally.
okay, it still helps you step back for a second and be like, okay, if this scenario were to happen, what would we do? Because there's a good chance that like you're gonna have a bunch of gaps in just like you don't think about something until it actually happens. But you don't want to be realizing your whole company is down with ransomware and everything like that, and then have to be thinking about like, okay, what should we be doing this? Like, just have that plan in place. Like disaster recovery plan, like written out, notarized, whatever. Make it like may not
Get
notarized.
a notary public involved. That's how you know it's serious.
I mean, that would be cool. They would probably have it notarized. I don't know. I'm just making things up. Point being, but like have those plans ahead of time and like just plan for the worst sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think when you get those plans in place, sometimes you'll realize that, hey, we think it might be 14 days to get this restored, and you can go and say 14 days is fine, or wow, there's no way we could deal with a 14-day outage. Like, how
Right.
do we get that time shortened? And so I think it gives you that opportunity to be like, what's okay? How much risk are we willing to absorb, and how much are we willing to not have? And
Yep.
to find that balance between sort of the budget and the downtime,
Yep.
I think is sort of critical to have. So,
Yep.
yeah, planning, preparing. No one is safe. It feels bad, It's like
It does feel bad, especially a hospital of all things. Like,
I wish
really,
these things didn't happen. I
Right.
still think there's going to be a hacker tax at some point. I still think it's like another 5%. It's like sales tax added to everything. And we'll just, hey, if you're smarter than this and you're a cybersecurity expert, we're just going to give you $50,000 a year just to stop, please. Well,
possible.
we can't find them, so I don't know that we know who they are, and they'll just.
who's gonna come out of the thing just being like, oh hey, by the way, that was me. I'm here to collect
me.
my money.
Here's my social security number and my.
All right, what's another takeaway though? Because I think plan is probably the big one, but other things just like, again, we don't know how this
we're
like
totally
propagated, so this is just pure speculation. But very often these things do happen from like human error of like opening an email or something like that. Like you don't like I'm just assuming, but like doing all the things like making sure your staff are all like up to date, like security trained, knowing what to do, knowing what to spot for, knowing not to do X, Y, and Z things. Make sure you have antivirus and like MDRs, like to help detect things and everything like that faster.
Or zero trust.
And
The new big thing is zero trust, so that nothing comes in the network unless you know what it is and you're letting it in. And so then random things that are out of the usual just don't get into the network at all.
Yep.
But then it's hard to manage. It is hard to manage. You know, there was 1,300 staff, I think maybe, or something like that. It's hard to manage that many endpoints and stuff like that if everything they try to do has to go through an approval process. But yeah, there's always things to do. I'm sure they'll look at it in their rearview mirror now and find things where they were, hey, here's where our gaps were, and they'll fix them.
Right.
Or things that they didn't necessarily think they had the budget for, that they'll now find a way to pull it off. But you know, that's how this goes, right? It's always clear in the rearview mirror. So, but just crazy that these things keep happening. So keeping up. Yeah, the staff training is, I think, huge.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even the latest newsletter, some of the things in Verizon, it is showing those are working. So people are trending upwards in their ability to detect that. And it's like, it was actually pretty shocking. It was like a pretty steep, like sort of like year over year that was kind of like, it was going up as people were more computer savvy.
Yep.
But like the last 2 years, it was like a significant spike up. So that's really awesome. I think that's going to make a big difference as these things continue to happen. So keep up with those trainings. You know, watch the CCA Unnamed podcast so you can get good ideas and make sure that you're thinking about those DR plans and being willing to have that conversation and think about what does it look like to, you know, I think everyone just thinks like, oh, we just would go home, it'd be fine. And sometimes it's not that easy. So
Ascension can't go home.
Ascension cannot go home. No, they are having problems. So, but we'll obviously keep this going. We'll come up with updates as they go, but we just thought it'd be fun to have a quick sit down and kind of, obviously we know nothing. So it was more like hey, let's just sit and talk about it because we have no idea what happened at all at this point. But
if you have questions on like kind of like what we talked about, like how can I keep myself safer, or like what could be gaps that I'm missing, stuff like that, let us know. We'd be happy to talk about it with you.
Build a DR plan.
Yeah.
Build some estimated time to restore.
So you don't become Ascension.
Exactly.
And I don't want to say it to knock them because it could happen. Yeah. Well, right. Exactly. No promises either.
Yeah.
Also, I do absolutely hope that Ascension comes back up smoothly because that's just rough.
And hopefully they're willing to openly talk about what happened so that people can learn from it. Because that's, I think the goal for all of us is to try and be learning from all these things. It's like, what happened to you? Where was the gap? You know, maybe it's something that a lot of us can use. Hey, what
exactly?
Where was it? Where was the big fall through? Or you know, was it a user thing? Was it a
system issue?
System thing? Was it you're not updating things fast enough? What is it? It'd be really awesome if they release that at some point. So
yeah,
if we hear more news, we'll obviously add it to another future podcast. Maybe not entirely about Ascension that time. Hopefully we can.
Unless there's something huge, then maybe we will. If they like make a massive like bombshell, be like, "Here's everything that happened," then that might be worth it.
We can certainly unpack it. Yeah, if it's complicated, and we can sit down and go and be like, "Hey, here's what we all can learn from it." Because I think that's the goal. Like that user trend. As long as we keep learning and getting better, I think that makes a big difference. So
cool.
That's all I had.
Yeah, me too. We'll keep you guys up to date. Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Still unnamed. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll help AI. Maybe AI. I'm still asking Copilot to give me titles.
Like
so
every day, just like praying that someday it's going to come up with a good one.
There's been some good ones. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Right?
Take care. Absolutely. Yeah, next time for sure. I agree.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.